It's a strange dissonance, isn't it? When the reflection they see doesn't match the storm raging within. They observe the surface, the actions, but the intricate tapestry of thoughts beneath remains unseen, misunderstood. Sometimes, the most profound battles are fought in silence, and the world only witnesses the aftershocks. The mask we wear, though crafted for survival, can become a prison, obscuring the authentic self. How do you explain the weight of unspoken burdens to a world that only judges by visible reactions? The perception of normal is a narrow lens, failing to capture the spectrum of human experience. We are all actors on a stage, but the script we're given rarely reflects the true drama unfolding backstage. The world sees a performance, but the heart knows the raw, unfiltered truth of every moment. It's a lonely space, being perceived in a way that feels fundamentally untrue to your core. The struggle to reconcile inner turmoil with outward expectations is a constant, exhausting dance. They see the ripples, but they don't feel the tidal wave that caused them. The silent language of unspoken feelings often gets lost in the noise of external judgments. How often do we mistake a facade for the genuine article, failing to see the vulnerability beneath? The burden of maintaining appearances can become heavier than the weight of the emotions we conceal. It's a delicate balance, trying to navigate a world that demands consistency when your inner world is in flux. There's a profound disconnect between the story they tell about you and the one you're living. The fear of being truly seen, truly understood, can lead to a carefully constructed persona. We often project our own interpretations onto others, creating a distorted reflection of their reality. The quiet desperation of being mislabeled is a universal human experience. How do you convey the complexity of your inner world when the world prefers simplified narratives? The pressure to conform can lead to a suppression of authentic feelings, creating a sense of inner conflict. The world judges by actions, but the heart knows the intricate motivations behind them. It's a paradox, wanting to be understood, yet fearing the vulnerability that true understanding requires. The gap between perception and reality can be a chasm of loneliness and misunderstanding. How often do we mistake a moment of strength for a lack of vulnerability? The weight of unspoken feelings can create a heavy atmosphere, even in the brightest of rooms. The world sees the surface, but the soul knows the depths of the unspoken story. It's a silent battle, trying to maintain composure while your inner world is in chaos. The struggle to be seen for who you truly are is a fundamental human longing. How do you explain the nuances of your emotional landscape to a world that prefers black and white? The fear of being judged can lead to a carefully curated version of yourself. The world often mistakes resilience for indifference, failing to see the pain it masks. It's a lonely journey, navigating a world that doesn't understand the complexities of your heart. The burden of carrying unspoken emotions can become a heavy weight, slowing your steps. How often do we project our own insecurities onto others, creating a false narrative? The gap between inner truth and outer perception can be a source of profound isolation. The world sees the performance, but the soul knows the rehearsal of every emotion. It's a constant effort trying to bridge the gap between how you're perceived and who you are. The pressure to conform can lead to a suppression of authentic feelings, creating a sense of inner conflict. How do you explain the silent battles fought within to a world that only sees the surface? The fear of being vulnerable can lead to a carefully constructed facade, masking the true self. The world often mistakes a moment of strength for a lack of vulnerability, failing to see the pain it masks. It's a lonely journey, navigating a world that doesn't understand the complexities of your heart. The burden of carrying unspoken emotions can become a heavy weight, slowing your steps. How often do we project our own insecurities onto others, creating a false narrative? The gap between inner truth and outer perception can be a source of profound isolation. The world sees the performance, but the soul knows the rehearsal of every emotion. It's a constant effort trying to bridge the gap between how you're perceived and who you are. The silent language of unspoken feelings often gets lost in the noise of external judgments. How often do we mistake a facade for the genuine article, failing to see the vulnerability beneath? The burden of maintaining appearances can become heavier than the weight of the emotions we conceal. The world stage demands a performance, but the soul yearns for an authentic connection. Often, the most profound truths are hidden behind a carefully constructed silence. The weight of unspoken expectations can crush the spirit, leaving only a hollow echo. They observe the surface, but they cannot fathom the depths of the emotional currents. The struggle to maintain a facade can become a battle against one's own inner self. How do you convey the intricacies of your heart to a world that thrives on simplicity? The fear of vulnerability often leads to a carefully guarded exterior. The world's perception is a mere reflection, often distorted by its own biases. It's a lonely existence, being perceived as something you fundamentally are not. The burden of concealing your true feelings can become an unbearable weight. They witness the actions, but they remain blind to the underlying motivations. The silent language of the heart is often drowned out by the noise of external judgments. How often do we mistake a moment of strength for an absence of emotional depth? The pressure to conform can lead to a stifling of authentic self-expression. It's a delicate dance, balancing the need for connection with the fear of exposure. There's a profound chasm between the narrative they create and the reality you live. The desire for understanding clashes with the fear of being misunderstood. We project our own interpretations, creating a distorted image of another's inner world. The quiet desperation of being mislabeled is a universal human experience. How do you articulate the complexity of your emotions to a world that prefers easy labels? The pressure to maintain composure can lead to a suppression of authentic feelings. The world judges by outward appearances, but the heart knows the hidden depths. It's a paradox, seeking connection while fearing the vulnerability it requires. The gap between perception and reality can create a profound sense of isolation. How often do we mistake a controlled exterior for a lack of inner turmoil? The weight of unexpressed emotions can create a suffocating atmosphere. The world sees the surface, but the soul carries the weight of unspoken stories. It's a silent struggle, maintaining a facade while your inner world unravels. The longing to be seen for who you truly are is a fundamental human desire. How do you explain the subtle nuances of your emotional landscape to a world of absolutes? The fear of judgment can lead to the creation of a carefully curated persona. The world often mistakes resilience for indifference, overlooking the hidden pain. It's a solitary journey, navigating a world that doesn't comprehend your inner complexities. The burden of carrying unspoken emotions can become a crippling weight. How often do we project our own insecurities, crafting a false narrative about others? The divide between inner truth and outer perception can lead to a deep sense of alienation. The world observes the performance, but the soul endures the unseen rehearsals. It's a constant effort, bridging the gap between how you're seen and who you are. The need to conform can stifle authentic feelings, leading to inner conflict. How do you explain the silent battles within to a world that only sees the surface victories? The fear of vulnerability can construct a strong facade, concealing the genuine self. The world often confuses strength with an absence of vulnerability, ignoring hidden suffering. It's a solitary path, traversing a world that doesn't understand your heart's intricacies. The weight of carrying unvoiced emotions can become an overwhelming burden. How often do we project our own fears, creating a fabricated story about others? The chasm between internal truth and external perception can create profound isolation. The world witnesses the performance, but the soul knows the unseen preparations. It's a persistent endeavor, reconciling how you're perceived with your authentic self. The unspoken language of feelings is often lost in the clamor of external opinions. How often do we mistake a carefully crafted exterior for genuine authenticity? The weight of upholding appearances can exceed the burden of concealed emotions. It's a delicate equilibrium, navigating a world that demands consistency amidst inner flux. There's a deep disconnect between the story others tell and the life you're living. The fear of being truly known can lead to a meticulously constructed persona. We often impose our own interpretations, generating a distorted view of someone else's reality. The silent despair of being mislabeled is a shared human experience. How do you convey the complexity of your inner world when the world favors simplistic stories? The pressure to adapt can suppress genuine feelings, creating internal discord.